We've been talking all week about renegade independence. Today we're going to talk about some of the challenges to being an independent renegade. All that and more on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, do. So that was weird. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't see the video playing, so I had no idea when it would end.
It's not helpful.
No. And I've got my Jim Cantori out there. You can see behind me, Tom, the storm has cleared, and now it's really pretty out. We're assessing the... No, I'm kidding.
Is your jacket Columbia?
It is Columbia.
Oh, wow. So you do fit with the...
I got it going on.
Nice. Maybe Columbia wants to... Now that you do so many of these from outside, Columbia wants to sponsor our show.
I like that idea. That'd be great.
That would be
Bring
great.
it on, Columbia.
Yes, indeed. We're happy to plug you and
cut you a deal.
That's right. And we'll make sure that Bob stays dry.
Look, I'll even go down lower so that you can see it throughout the report.
Maybe of more value than seeing either one of our faces. So,
indeed.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast podcast. Each week, we have a conversation around a topic. And as Bob mentioned, we are talking this week about renegade independence. And today, we're going to focus on the challenges. Yesterday, we talked about the benefits. And I think as anyone who's listened to our show knows that I share that every time there are benefits, there are always challenges that are a part of it. Just like anytime there are opportunities, there are challenges lurking. Some seen, some unforeseen. And we'll discuss that today. If you have thoughts and ideas you'd like to share around that, please feel free to put them in the comments on whatever social media you are following us on, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
Yes, LinkedIn Live. What's that? What's wrong?
They're people exercise. Yes, it's okay. Yes, I've caused a stir.
There you go. It's a good thing, though. Yes, LinkedIn Live. You can catch us there as well. So please feel free to share your thoughts there. And then at the end of our conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, or today's antidote, that we hope might help you today or somewhere down the road to help you take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So we will share those, and we hope that if you have something that strikes you, your antidote, please feel free to share it as well. So we kick off each morning before we dive into our topic with celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I don't want to get into the details very much, but I figured out something yesterday that has been perplexing me for years. And it finally clicked for me. Yeah, for years, maybe even decades. And I figured a pretty big thing out that will change how I see the world going forward. So I am celebrating that without giving any details. But trust me, it's a big move forward for me.
Quantum physics?
Something like that. Yeah, string theory, the important stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
I wasn't going to talk about it, but it is string theory.
You figured it out?
Yeah, I have. But what was going on for me was probably as complex as string theory is to those who study string theory. Haven't you ever had that thing that you've been trying to figure out forever and you just suddenly one day it just clicks?
I don't know. I guess maybe I haven't noticed it as much.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Or maybe I still haven't found it, since I'm always searching, knowing that I may never find what I'm looking for. And yet the journey is worth the value.
Sounds like a song. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
I believe that is close to the words of a song. May actually be the exact words.
I think it's the exact words. Yeah.
My buddy Frank Hanley would know. We were sitting in the car. This is a little side story. During a rain delay a couple days ago. And we had 80s music on. And we were playing Who Can Name the Song First?
You can't win?
He smoked me. It was not even close.
What were some of the songs?
Oh, heaven. Now I'm supposed to remember the songs. I don't know. They were all the one-hit wonders of the 80s.
Okay. Many of those with the big hair.
Correct. So, yes, he would be able to tell us exactly the song, who sang it, all those things. So,
I think it's you too. Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
it might be. Frank,
Yeah.
if you happen to be listening, please help us out.
Yeah. So, Tom, what are you celebrating today?
So today I am celebrating modern architect. Sure. Modern architecture.
Yeah. Are you just happy to be able to say it?
Yes. I didn't think that was going to be that difficult. So last night, my wife was officiating a game as a part of the World Championships. And
the women's lacrosse.
Women's lacrosse, yes.
You never throw that in.
There's so many things to clarify exactly what it is. It's hard to. I guess I just make some assumptions that people, that, you know, with all the thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of people who watch our show, they're very clear that that's what it is. So, and of course, just as the game was about to get started, it starts pouring. And of course, because there was no thunder or lightning, they kept playing. Well, fortunately, the facility that I was at had a overhang on the building just long enough to keep some of the fans dry. And while it was pouring and the rain was coming straight down, I could stand under this overhang and stay dry. So that's what I'm celebrating today. I'm thankful that whoever the architect was of that building created that little overhang.
Is that Johnny Unitas Stadium at the lovely Towson University?
No. It is the fairly new women's lacrosse, I think, and soccer field called Tiger Field at Towson University.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yes. Had I been in Johnny Unitas Stadium, I'd have been drenched like everybody else.
Okay.
It was there watching the U.S. play, so I was happy not to be there.
All right. Well, Tom, we should get to the topic because I know people are anxious to know about the challenges of being an independent renegade.
Would you like to start?
I would love to. You know, I think there are a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is fitting it all in. I have some days where I just have a lot of things going on and I have to do some juggling because I have so much flexibility and freedom that it can be too much of such a thing. There's also the challenge of economic ups and downs. You know, I was talking to someone the other day and they were telling me that they made $30,000 one month and they made $4,000 the next month. And that's not uncommon. I also think that another challenge is that people around you, and this is a big one, don't always understand what drives you. They are thinking paycheck to paycheck. They're thinking stability, and the life of a independent renegade can be a little bit unstable at times. So that can cause some friction in life. What are some of yours?
Well, you know, I think that there's a number of them, just like there are a number of benefits. And typically, it's interesting. I think if we ever sat down and tried to weigh them out, they would probably be fairly equal. We could probably come up with a list that was as long of each.
I would agree.
And I think that, you know, one of the challenges is that you're on your own. You know, and in some ways, that's a huge benefit, as we talked about yesterday. You know, no one else is telling you what you should do or how you should do it or when you should do it. And at the same time, it is, there's not always somebody there to help you. And I think sometimes that's one of the biggest challenges is figuring out what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And I think that many times we have some of those answers, and oftentimes we don't, because we maybe have never experienced before. One of the, I think, benefits sometimes of being a part of an organization is usually there are people there who have gone through a similar experience. When you're independent, in whatever it might be, whether it's personally or professionally, you're kind of out on your own. And yes, there are others out there, and yet you have to then reach out to them and be willing to say, I'm not clear exactly on where I'm going. And I think that's one of the fine lines is we want our independence because we want to be able to do those things. And yet once we have it, we don't necessarily want to go to somebody else and say, I'm not really clear on what I'm doing. Could you share your thoughts and ideas on this? And I think it's that sense of, and I think business owners go through this a lot, entrepreneurs, of, I feel like I should know this. I feel like I should be able to figure out the solution. And that unwillingness to go find others who might be able to help typically is what gets people who are independent stuck, because they believe that that their knowledge, experience, and perspective should prepare them for whatever might come down the pathway, which kind of is unrealistic thinking. And as they find those spaces where they don't have that knowledge, experience, and perspective, they sometimes feel like, well, how do I go ask somebody else about it? Like, I'm the person who wanted to go out and do this thing. I should have all the answers. And of course, none of us have all the answers. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face is that we wanted to be alone. Now we're alone. And what are all the things that are created by being independent?
It also can be difficult to find the people to talk to because you don't want to admit to the people around you that you don't know exactly what you're doing, right?
That's what I was trying to say. Maybe I didn't say that clearly.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put too fine a point on it.
No, it's fine.
But I think that's where our Renegade Success Network came into play. And
yes.
Out of what you and I found, that it was really great to have someone that we could talk to, each of us, that would listen, that would offer some suggestions and not be critical and not go, what the hell are you thinking? But hey, okay, I get what you're trying to achieve. Have you thought about this? Have you met this person? Have you done this thing that worked for me? Or I heard about this thing. And I think that's what started our pathway to creating that Renegade Success Network, where we're helping people figure out their next steps and not judging them. And I think almost every person in that group that I coach, Tom, has said it's really great to have someone to talk to that isn't trying to figure out if I'm right or wrong, good or bad, just trying to help me.
Right. We're not telling them what to do. And I think that's the interesting thing about all of this is that we think we don't have the answers, yet often it's just we aren't asking ourselves the correct questions to help us find that. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges of being independent is you are limited by your knowledge, experience, and perspective. And at some point, not at some point, you can never have all the knowledge, experience, and perspective in the world, in the universe. Although it sounds like if you've solved quantum physics, string theory, you might have all of that. So maybe that's a pretty big revelation.
I'm pretty darn close.
There you go. And I think that's the challenge is that it's one of the challenges that we think we don't have the answers. And if we look deeply inside, and that usually comes from someone else asking questions, we can discover not the right answer, the answer that is real for us, because that's going to be different for all of us. And so it's not always the same question to every person who's struggling with maybe even the same challenge. It's often the question that allows that person to uncover some of that knowledge, experience, and perspective that they just haven't looked at it in that way.
I think that's a big part of moving forward as an independent renegade is starting to realize that you do have a lot more knowledge and experience and perspective than you realize. It seems like I'm amazed at how many times in my career now I draw on things that happened 20 or 30 years ago. And it's just like, oh, I did this before. Wow. Huh. And you just don't think of it that way.
Correct. Because you're too close to it, I think. You're in the middle of trying to do it. And so it's hard for you to think outside of what your reality is at the moment, to go back to something that you did or had done or something that was similar in the past. And I think that's one of the real interesting things around independence is how do we see what we can't see?
Right.
even though we probably have something to draw on that could be beneficial in seeing it.
So what's your one thing today, Tom?
It's funny. I had a thought and then I lost it. Maybe it'll come back before the show is over. But I would say that my one thing is that one of the biggest challenges is that we want to be out on our own. We want to be able to make those decisions. And yet, once we choose to do that, we can easily get stuck because we think we have all the answers. We think we'd be like, oh, I've had this revelation, and maybe this will happen to you. I've had this revelation that this is the path I want to choose. And we choose it. And what we don't always know, and yes, we know there are going to be some challenges, and yet there are always also going to be additional challenges that pop up that we cannot foresee. And that those, while likely will slow us down, we can and probably do have inside of us the answers that we need if we can find someone who can help us clear away the immediate reality of what's happening to find the solution that will work for us, that's real for us, based on where we are at and what we're trying to accomplish and the pathway that we have chosen.
You took mine. That's exactly what I was going to say.
In the exact same words? In the exact same way?
No, I was going to say that.
Well, you said it was exactly what you were going to say.
Well, yeah, good point. No, I was going to say my way of saying it would be, you will face a lot of challenges and you've got to be willing to confront them. And often confronting them is not just going into your own mind and debating things, but seeking outside resources, outside people that can help you cut through the clutter. Because I think that's what I find for me. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of, what about this? What about this? And then when someone says something very simply like, well, have you thought about this? It's like, whoa, that's too easy. And I think we complicate things because we're looking for big solutions. And I think, like we said earlier, we expect to know the answers. If I'm carving my own path, I better know what I'm doing every step of the way. And the fact of the matter is, we don't really know what we're doing most of the time.
Who does? Well, and I think that there are so many options. It's interesting. Once you have that independence, you no longer have a supervisor, a boss, an owner that's saying to you, well, you could do this or that. Here are the options you can choose. And you're like, okay, well, I'm limited by the options that this person, because I don't have independence, is giving me. So I can make a choice. Once we have our independence, we now have a whole host of options in front of us. And that almost becomes overwhelming, I believe. Trying to figure out, now that I'm not limited by someone else's knowledge, experience, and perspective, that as someone would say, the world is my oyster. Sometimes it's hard to figure out which oyster to go after. And it's almost like too much independence creates us an inability to actually find solutions. And I think that's part of it, is that if you choose that independence is the only way, I'm going to do it my way, there are so many options in front of you that you can't figure out what steps to take next. And that so often is that while we are independent, and I think this might be another challenge, it's very hard to be completely independent. Even with independence, usually becomes reliability on someone else, relying on a customer to make a decision to hire you, relying on a supplier to provide the information that you need, or the materials you need to do whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And so in some ways, are we ever truly independent? That might be a good thing for Discovery of the Week tomorrow.
I was going to say, tomorrow's Discoveries of the Week. You're jumping into them, Tom. Come on, that's a great tease. I love a good Discovery of the Week discussion.
You certainly do. And if you are like a good Discovery of the Week discussion, you're going to want to make sure to join us tomorrow. It's Bob's favorite show of the week.
Yes.
And maybe he'll share more information about what he discovered the other day on this thing that's been bothering for him. I believe he said decades. Wow, that's a lot of clarity to find in one day.
Unfortunately, it's not something I would like to share publicly.
That's fine. It's interesting, though. It actually intrigues me about finding that kind of clarity around something and how much independence that creates in your head and what that will mean for all the other things that could pop up. Like, what's going to take that space? If I would imagine, well, I would just imagine that if this is something that's you've been trying to figure out for decades, you're now like, well, now where do I go from here? It's almost like if you had solved.
There is an element of that going on, yes.
The fact that you solved string theory. It's like, what's next? I think there was actually a show on, did you ever watch The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Where I think Sheldon felt like he had solved it. And in some regards, in solving that problem, that challenge,
he created new ones.
He had no idea what to do next.
Right.
You know, if you've been searching for something your entire career and you finally find it, and I think sometimes that's another challenge for independence. Sorry to add on to that, is that so often when you're stuck in a situation where you don't feel like you have independence and you finally gain it. And it's almost like, well, what do I do now? This is a heck about movie references. Did you see this Shawshank Redemption?
I did.
So the guy who had been in jail for a long, long time, like most of his life, I think, like 60 years, he got out and had no idea what to do next. He had lived this life of a regimented life of someone else had planned out his schedule. Yep. Once he was finally released, he's like, he didn't know what to do. And I imagine that that's one of the biggest challenges as well, is now that we have it, what do we do next?
Yes, there is an element of that.
All right. Well, there's a lot there.
You can't wait for this show to end so you can ask me about it, can you?
You said you don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to ask you about it.
I'll share it with you. I won't share it with the world, but I'll share it with you.
Wow. Thank you. I feel honored.
You'll know string theory soon.
So now we should wrap this up because now I'm intrigued. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of our show today. We hope that you found something there in all our conversation that'll help you. If you are interested in talking more about it, as we mentioned, please share your today's antidote in the comments, because we know it might help someone else. Or you can join us inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where we'll be talking about independence all week. With comments, thoughts, ideas, please feel free to come in and share yours, as we know it will help someone else who is stuck and trying to figure out what their next step is along their own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our discoveries of the week and our next episode of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and celebrate your independence.
Or a good built structure that covers you from the rain. It may rain today.
There you go.
Take care, everyone. You're listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.